Hi guys, there was no live hangout last month. A number of reasons for this. The most important one was that for the last 2 weeks and more I was ill. I mean, when I say ill, I mean really ill. I had one of the worst nights of my life, and I'm still not quite over it now, hence the title of this video, this hangout, and also because I'm sick of having to debunk the same lies again and again and again and again and again. This will be quite short, this hangout. I'll put on the screen here an article from globalvillagespace.com. British soldiers rape Kenyan women, leave behind children, report. British soldiers training in Kenya have been accused of raping thousands of women over decades, leaving behind mixed race children and facing allegations of impunity. This is a lie. I emailed the site, and predictably I've been ignored. This is a lie that was debunked in 2006. It's on the timeline at December 14th, 2006. So you can see this isn't new. Kenya was the East African Protectorate. Britain was the imperial power, and there was a big uprising in the 1950s called Mau Mau. I'll put a link to my article about that. Anyway, many years after, I mean, Britain left in Kenya was independent since 1963, I think. Let's just have a look. Yeah, it became independent in 1963 and became a republic in 1964. Decades after that, the law firm Lee Day, who are crooks, put in claims for the claims that tribal women had been raped en masse by soldiers who'd left behind half-caste kids, and I mean really industrial scale abuse. Anyway, the Ministry of Defence was a bit suspicious about these claims, perhaps in view of the firm that had put the claims in. I sent a team out there, and they found absolute mass fraud, really on a massive scale. Now, fewer than 2,187 allegations were found to be baseless. The fraud over a 4-year period. This is the largest scale rape fraud in this database, and this garbage website, whatever it is, this website which I'd never seen before, that they some imbecile decided to recycle this trash. This is the result. People will read this and they'll believe it. It's really too sick for words. And this sort of thing happens. Not just with allegations of rape, but all sorts of things. Lies that are recycled. Organisations and individuals and politicians and NGOs have absolutely no respect for the truth. They keep recycling this rubbish time and time and time and time again. As if that were not bad enough, there's an article here on the website of Police Service of Northern Ireland, which I think goes by PSNI, Police Service of Northern Ireland, June the 18th. Police rolled out training to help transform response to rape and sexual abuse. I'll put an image on the screen here. Don't believe the myths. What are the myths? What are these rape myths? Well, whenever you hear the phrase rape myth, what they mean is believe women. Transforming its response to rape and sexual abuse, the Police Service of Northern Ireland launched a new bespoke training package in August 2023, which has been delivered in person to over 500 frontline officers by Nexus, Northern Ireland's leading sexual abuse and abusive relationships charity. Well, so police are being trained quote unquote by these imbeciles who run Rape Crisis and similar organisations. In April 2018, the Gillen Review was commissioned by the Department of Justice, setting 253 recommendations to improve criminal justice outcomes and the experiences of victims. A key recommendation for all criminal justice partners was to raise awareness and challenge any internal unconscious bias that may exist. Believe women. In the last 12 months until April 30th this year, 4,022 sexual violence and abuse reports were made to Police Service in Northern Ireland. When you consider the population of Northern Ireland, how small it is, even allowing for these migrants, this invasion, that is an absolutely astounding number. My Irish correspondent, who lives in the south, he said that a lot of Irish women are bonkers when it comes to this. Yeah, I mean, it's actually Ireland, the whole of Ireland, and New Zealand. There are small countries with small populations and massive reports of sexual abuse and false allegations. New Zealand is understandable to a degree because there was a massive a very substantial accident and criminal compensation scheme which didn't require any sort of form of proof, so people were putting all sorts of claims for accidents and victims of crime and that's called the ACT. I believe it's been abolished now or substantially reformed, but for many years it was absolutely ridiculous, the claims that were put in, and then you got women who make allegations for all the usual crazy reasons and done. Detective Chief Superintendent Lindsay Fisher from the Service's Public Protection Branch said sexual crimes are incredibly complex to investigate, and it cannot be underestimated the impact they have upon victims, their families and the wider communities. This is why we have dedicated rape crime investigators who are committed to getting victims the best possible outcomes. Believe women and convict the accused. We know a huge barrier that stops victims from coming forward is the fear of their report not being taken seriously or the evidence not being robustly investigated. There we go. Come forward. That expression, come forward. No, many so-called victims fear is that the crimes will be robustly investigated. The training package will go a long way to ensure that our language and behaviour towards vulnerable victims is more consistently appropriate and that they feel supported. It will debunk common myths and misconceptions and give our frontline officers and investigating detectives A deeper understanding of how a reporting victim may be thinking, feeling and acting at the time of reporting, to better grasp a bigger picture. To better grasp the bigger picture. Never mind that. Common societal misconceptions challenged within the training are: what the relationship is between the victim and the alleged offender. That victims can't be raped if they're in a relationship with the offender. I don't think any reasonable person has ever suggested that. That the victim is somehow to blame if they were under the influence of alcohol or drugs because of what they were wearing, or because there was flirting, kissing or consenting to other sexual acts prior to the alleged offence. The big one here is alcohol. I'll put a link to the alcohol page. I'll put a link to the Rodney Anderson page, and you can follow links from there. But basically, there's actually a case on the timeline, an entry on the timeline in which a police officer in the Irish Republic, I think the Irish Republic, he says that women turn up at the police station drunk, or claim to have been raped, and the police go to the nightclub. They find her and the so-called perpetrator all over each other. What happens is women, they'll drink like a fish. Maybe they'll use other drugs as well, recreational drugs, maybe combined with prescription drugs, over-the-counter drugs, and then they'll have flashbacks, which are inaccurate. The Rodney Anderson case illustrates that to a T. They have these flashbacks and they believe that they were raped. They can't remember consenting to sex or having sex. Sometimes they'll have sex with one man or maybe three, and they can't remember afterwards. Or they think they've had sex with three, or they've been raped, and all sorts of stuff. And these flashbacks can come within days, weeks, years, decades even, and they can be very persuasive. These women make very persuasive witnesses because they're not lying. They're not straight up lying. This is, as I've said many times before, and others have said, in the current climate, now and like forever, it's very dangerous for any man to have sex with a woman who's been drinking anything. Certainly, if they're not in an intimate relationship and share the same bed. That the victim can't be raped or sexually assaulted if they change their mind mid-act and with true consent. Oh boy. That anyone who's raped or sexually assaulted should be very upset. They should be angry, not upset. But again, this is believe women. Previous reporting or multiple reports means they couldn't have been assaulted this time. Listen to that again. Previous reporting or multiple reports means they couldn't have been assaulted this time. Believe women. That too much time has passed since the incidents occurred. Believe women. One more time. A woman who reports her alleged rape promptly, especially when there's physical evidence, is a lot more credible than a woman who claims to have been raped 3 months, 3 years, or even 3 decades ago. It doesn't mean she's lying. It doesn't mean the woman who reports promptly is telling the truth. It doesn't mean a woman who purportedly delays reporting is lying. But use your common sense. And I'll put a link to my video, How the Police Convict People of Imaginary Crimes, which explains how this purported delay, she said he denies, how that works, and how the police can go trawling for victims. This is especially true when the accused is maybe a teacher, some sort of professional person, a doctor. Doctors can be accused of multiple indecent assaults, and because there are lots of accusers, that the allegations sound credible, but they're not most of the time. Doesn't mean that doesn't happen, but again, believe women. That the victim's sexual orientation, gender, background or sexual history has any bearing on what has happened to them. Well, it can do, you know. Again, a married woman who sleeps only with her husband, especially if she's an older woman, is a lot more credible than a prostitute. It stands to reason. Yeah, and she isn't disreputable. She's a respectable married woman. You know, in old court cases, they wouldn't necessarily use the word rape, but they refer to a victim as a married woman. In other words, this woman sleeps only with her husband, and this guy took advantage of her, or took advantage, worse than took advantage. You know, some victims are more credible than others. This applies not just to sexual crimes, real or imagined, but to, I mean, people who have criminal records, especially serious criminal records, have less credibility than people of good character. And the police can take advantage of this. It happens. But it's just the way things are. That sex workers cannot be raped or sexually assaulted. And therefore cannot make a report. Above that is that men cannot be raped or sexually assaulted. Has anyone ever seriously suggested that? Seriously? With men, rape used to be called buggery or sodomy. Now it's called rape. Sex workers, prostitutes in other words. That's, you know, that's the euphemisms. Common prostitutes. I mean, anyone can be sexually assaulted, grabbed, you know, the breast, touch of the breast or lower down. Anyone. So this is complete nonsense. And this is a big one. Other very common myths that were challenged as part of the training were the freeze response, that someone didn't respond normally during attack, freezing on the spot instead of fighting back. I made a video about this. This was a few years ago. Rape Crisis Scotland put out a series of videos. I just froze. No. And there's a quote here from Detective Chief Superintendent Fisher. Unfortunately, rape myths exist in our society. Believe women. Believe women. And adopting this sort of nonsense, there's a lot more where that came from. Well, this is I'll put a link to it anyway. In our evaluation of the training, we found overwhelming majority of officers positively engaged with the training and left with increased knowledge of issues including the impact of grooming, trauma, barriers to reporting, rape myths and misogyny. Had to be misogyny, didn't it? Had to be misogyny. Now this is propaganda, and police adopting this sort of nonsense instead of the traditional approach is going to lead. It will probably lead to a lot more convictions, but how many of those convictions will be warranted, I really don't know. I mean, so that's that garbage. And finally, there's a report here from Billboard. Judge dismisses Neil Portnow rape case following accusers' dispute with lawyers over name reveal. After a split with her lawyers, Portnoy's Jane Doe accuser said she was unable to proceed with the case, though she will be allowed to refile it later if she so chooses. So this is a civil case. I really don't like the idea of anonymity anyway, but for criminal cases an argument can be made out for it. and when we're young, when the accuser or the actual victim is young, then of course that is understandable. But this is a civil case. Women should not be allowed to sue for allegations of rape, well, allegations of anything anonymously. This Jane Doe stuff is garbage. This guy is out there. His name is out there in front of the world. He's an accused rapist, basically. And this woman, nobody knows who. Well, the public don't know who she is. A Manhattan federal judge has dismissed the rape case against former Recording Academy President, CEO Neil Portnow, after his Jane Doe accuser and her attorneys separately filed to drop it earlier this month. Judge Annalisa Torres dismissed the case without prejudice. She dismissed it with prejudice, as the plaintiff requested, meaning she can be filed at a later date. That went against the wishes of Portnow and his attorneys, who requested that the judge dismiss the case permanently, as it should have been dismissed permanently. In a statement to Billboard, Portnow said, "These latest developments confirm what I've said over the past 5 years since the inception of these outrageous and damning allegations. The claims against me were false and without merit. I look forward to moving on with my life and continuing to work on meaningful projects." Yeah, this is absolutely outrageous. Unbeknownst to counsel, plaintiff filed a letter on his court's docket requesting voluntary dismissal of the case. Doe's attorney, Jeffrey Anderson, wrote, "Plaintiff's action in filing it demonstrates the irreconcilable differences that provide a basis for withdrawal." In other words, they don't want anything more to do with that, and frankly I doubt any other law firm, or certainly not any high-powered law firm. This was Billboard, May 20th. Yeah, I've had this for some time. I may enter this into the forced rape timeline. I mean, it's just, I'm absolutely outrageous, and the media goes along with this as well. You know, we got to go along with this garbage. Anyway, that's all I'm doing. So in Sequela and sick of lies out of the archive, lies by activists who somehow worm their way into the criminal justice system, and lies by people who falsely accuse celebrities, powerful men, businessmen, showbiz, whatever, you know, men who have money and trappings. So I'll edit this and get out fairly soon. This may be the only one I make this month because I've got other commitments, and I'm still not so great